Hi everybody, I'm Malaika from Luminary, and today I'm with probably Raymond as part of the UMOJA celebration series, where we're creating space for Black artists to share their talents, opinions, and stories. So how are you, Raymond, and what's going on?
I'm good. Just been running around. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So you've been doing music for a while now. So I wanted to ask, when did you start and when did you know that music was for you?
Honestly, I think very vividly. I think when it comes to making music, I've been doing it for such a long time. I can't really give a specific instance. I can think of writing lyrics down in a really, really bad pop love song lyrics down to myself in elementary school in grade 3 or 4 when I was into a lot of pop punk music and that kind of stuff. But I think I really started loving and wanting to do music for the entirety of my life. I have a very specific experience. In grade 2, I was in a music class, and basically my teacher asked the class if anybody could use their falsetto on the male half of the class. And being one of only 2 guys who understood that, man, I was like, oh yeah, hell yeah, I can do that. So obviously, hit the high note, going crazy with it. And the teacher's like, wow, Raymond, that's really good. Maybe you'll be a singer one day. And I think that just gave my ego the smallest spark that it needed to just set me off the spot for the rest of my life. And here I am. So.
Yeah, I love that from young. So would you say your culture or background has influenced your music or style at all?
I think massively. I think my mom's super musical, and she raised me by herself for most of my childhood. So a lot of the things that I pick up from her musically, they really stuck. Cause she's really big into gospel and orchestral kind of music. So big productions, that kind of stuff. And she really loves old style African rhythms and stuff like that. So I think it's always been a part of the music that I like. Even now to this day, I'm a big fan of music that moves more with the musical rhythm than a jazzy one, those kind of things. And it's just kind of always been there. Just how my mom presents music too, and how it's been presented in the house. Growing up, my mom kind of walked and danced and sang around kind of like a Disney character to me. So it just kind of always transcended that way.
Yeah, I love that. And so you recently released Tennis Chains.
Yes.
And so can you tell us a little bit more about the creative process and how that song came to be?
So Tennis Chains was basically my buddy Mitchell from college, Metalworks University. I mean college. I just said college literally. It's called Institute too, so I'm just saying names now. But my buddy Mitchell, I went to college with him for a year, and super great guy, amazingly talented musician and producer. He sent me through a pack of a couple of instrumentals, and I heard it, and it was the first thing that it just stuck to my ear. And I think the intro, the first 4-beat count in and everything was just ridiculous the first time I heard it, and he was available for me. And I think that's the big thing when working on those types of songs and people send you stuff. I'm really big on collaboration, so he was also open to having a couple of things tweaked and kind of having a different kind of vocal performance than he was expecting on top of it, because I know a lot of people would expect it to be very much a more aggressive trappy kind of song, and I do sing on a large majority of it. I do realize. So I think the whole process that was really fun, and it was my first truly unique experience with creating music in the pandemic, which I think was a big part of it, because all of that was completely separately. I recorded on my own. Mitchell produced that at home, and then my engineer Moore actually produced that in Toronto at her house. So a big thing was communication. I think that really developed well during that project. And that's kind of all I can really say on that process. I can say I had a lot of fun, and I think the biggest part is even releasing everything. It allowed me to actually start working on this comic series that I wanted to work on for a long time. And I think that was a really cool part of it, because now I get to kind of do a visual art thing that I've always wanted to do as a person, along with music. So
yeah, that's so dope. And I guess going off of that, how has COVID-19 or the pandemic affected your creative process in terms of just writing or connecting with people? It's so weird nowadays. So how is it for you?
Yeah, it's actually a really weird time. And one of the things I often like to admit really to people is I am an anxious person. I always have been. So this pandemic has both been a blessing and a curse. Obviously, with trying to connect with people and everything, it's so much harder not being in your head when you're contacting people and you're just waiting for responses, and like you can't even go to see anybody. Like even you can't even drop off a resume and come back a week later and be like, I dropped off a resume, because they'll be like, get away from me, you're gonna kill me. So literally that's been really hard. But I think for my creative process, at the beginning I did feel a bit stifled. Obviously I feel like everybody felt trapped when this all started, and even halfway through the process it can get really hard when you're doing a lot of the same too, right? Because we're also used to doing our regular routine that once it's put indoors, we feel like we're being forced to do something different, which is also hard to convince your mind that it's the same routine and you should be fine with it. But the only thing that's missing is sunlight, right? Which is obviously important, but you know, you should have some kind of solace. But I think eventually I found my own stride, and it also really helped me grow artistically, because I was also given the opportunity to experiment with a lot of things that I wouldn't have the time to experiment with. I think a big part of being outside when we're artists, also being around other people's space and really studying people's lives. So we don't get a lot of time to do anything introspective or challenge ourselves to ourselves. We usually wait for somebody else to push us to do something, when usually we are outside by ourselves. But I notice now even more with a lot of artists that they're trying other mediums and they're trying new things. Like I know singers who are now doing makeup art because they've always had an interest in it, and now they have the opportunity to experiment, and they got like 10,000 plays on TikTok, and they found out that's another avenue they can have while they can still have their music in the background. So I think that's a really cool thing that the pandemic did for my creative process.
Yeah, that's honestly so real. Like a lot of artists have just found other ways to be creative when music is kind of like put on hold, like live shows and performances. So yeah, it's so real.
It's so important, right? Like even for you went so much more because I had known you as a singer first, right? But then with Luminary, you got a lot more aggressive, and I think that's really cool. Everything you guys have done so far this year, and everything that you guys have planned that you've told me of, is like, I just think it's really, really cool. And I think that's the coolest part about this pandemic, that it really did give all of us a opportunity to grow, even though once again it did seem like a trap, etc., and in the end it ended up being a really positive experience for everybody involved, right? So I mean, well, not everybody involved, but you know.
Yeah, the people who could benefit from it. And honestly, like, thank you for that, because like Luminary is for artists by artists, so we're just artists trying to make things still happen. And honestly, I don't think like without the pandemic we wouldn't have been able to like do BIPOC Fest or do this right now. So there's just so many cool things that we're able to take advantage of during this time, even though it's like, it's good and bad, because there are people who are suffering and who are really hurting during this time. So it's like, but at the end of the day, you have to make it work for you, you know? Like,
you know, and it's the silver lining thing, right? And I feel like that's kind of our job as artists. I don't think everyone can be as depressing as journalists all the time. I think that's important to have. Like, obviously bad stuff is going on and people are dying, but on the other side of the spectrum, this isn't the first year people have died, you know what I mean? So it's also really important to remember that well, things are dark, and obviously things are very grim, especially looking at the United States of America. There's always room for growth, right? And there's always room for new and improve things. So I think that's the most important thing, just remembering. And it's kind of great as artists that our job is to remind people of that, because then we also get to be reminded of that.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's rewind a little bit. Let's go back. So in your bio, you said that you performed on festival lineups with the likes of Roy Woods, Charlotte Day Wilson, who's like my favorite, and Majid Jordan. When I read this, I was like, whoa. So how was that experience for you, and like, what did that do for you as an artist?
So a lot of these, it's actually really funny, because a lot of these festivals I've always gotten by the grace of accidentally being added or knowing someone, etc., etc. So some of these have been like showcase festivals, or some of these have been live festivals. So a couple of years back, I did a festival that featured, I believe, Pusha-T and Roy Woods and Jazz Cardi, all on different days. But no, it wasn't a... Well, two of them may have been on the same day. I am unsure. But basically, a lot of these experiences, I feel like a lot of people expect that when you do these large festivals, or like some of them weren't even large. I went to one and literally I'm actually a fan of that bending of this. They promoted it so badly that they had to cancel the festival forever. Like legitimately. But that's a whole different thing on there. But I'm not even gonna touch that. Shout out to y'all though for booking me. I appreciate that stuff. But no, literally, I think the big thing with these festivals and everything, even like going on tour, a lot of people go into it looking for kind of an elevation or hoping for some sort of status. But I think the biggest thing is I've always been put on these events by people that I know or people who believe in me. So it's always been a moment of study for me. And I think the most important part of studying those moments is performance. Because as an artist, like I love music 100%, but I also recognize that if you're going to be a performing artist, performing has to be involved. And I think a lot of people forget that when they're like, I want to be a musician, and then they get on stage like, but I'm so nervous to sing in front of people. And I'm like, then don't be a performing artist and just play an instrument, because you're looking for trouble at the end of the day. And not because not everyone can do it. Anybody can get on stage and talk to people. It's the willingness to do so. And I think that vulnerability is the thing that I picked up most from those events. Being able to perform at those events, being able to talk to some of these guys. Because I didn't get to talk to all these people. Obviously, they're way up. But you do get to see how they navigate and how they talk, and kind of how even they handle their business in the background. Even I think way back 4 years ago. 4 years ago, I was in first year university and I helped promote a Travis Scott show before he blew up. He was famous, obviously. He was on the Rihanna anti-tour. Mm-hmm. But I promoted a show for him, and we did the setup stuff, and we ended up getting backstage access for setting it up. And when he actually showed up, we actually got to sit down and talk with him, which was a really interesting process, because just like everyone he had opening for him was there too. So it was really great having those intimate moments. And I feel like you get the same kind of experience performing at these festivals and performing at these showcases, because at the end of the day, when these people do show up to those things, the major thing is learning from them to get to the same position that they got, right? And they all do it so differently that it's really cool being in a position where I can see how they do it from not only the crowd, but from the back. And I think those are the major takeaways I take away from those kind of events.
Yeah, I love that. Like, that's so real as an artist. It's always about kind of like who you know and where you are and the time. But then again, like getting into different aspects of the industry, like the business side, promoting events, how to promote yourself. And then I just did a live performance workshop, and we're talking about colors, we're talking about outfits, we're talking about entrance, we're talking about first song, last song. Like there's all these intricate details that you have to pay attention to. So it's so great to be able to have that experience, and to now, like, obviously when live shows are back, because they will be, I like feel it in my heart. But yeah, to like really use that knowledge, and yeah, it's really cool. Yeah, so next question I have for you would be, who are your favorite artists in the city right now? Or who are you listening to?
In the city? The city's going kind of crazy right now. Holy, there's actually so many options. Like, who do you want?
You can just say a few. Say a good few.
I love Jimmy Yitty. I've met him in passing. He's the rapper from the city. He's from Scarps, actually. Super great. I think he's from New York, technically. Either way, I'm not. Jimmy, just know I love you. I love Jimmy's music. Baby 9 is one of my favorite songs. I love that everything that Safe is doing right now. I love everything that Mustafa is doing right now. I love everything you're doing right now. I love everything Divine is doing right now. Fucking. Who else? Like, I could just go on for days. There's so many talented artists in the city. Like, it's so hard to narrow it down. Just because there's such a broad range of everything that we have here. It's hard to like pick a couple, and especially when you run into these people, it's even crazier seeing the talent that they have in each other. And there's so many just talent, and I think that's the big thing too. Like, a lot of the talent in the city is in writing and performance. So I feel like it's really hard to just pick people, because like some of these guys, like, they get on stage and they do their thing, but then there's a lot of people who are writing songs that'll run back 40 times. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's like, it's crazy, like the talent in here, and like just in meeting. I think like even we met like in a basement of a coffee shop for this show, and it's just like crazy how you're connected to all these people. And yeah, the city is like going crazy. I'm gonna say a few of mine. Through BIPOC Fest, I was able to meet a lot of cool artists. No Tourist, Tremaine from Stay Out Late.
Okay.
Yeah, it's crazy, like the talent, and it's never ending. They keep going, they keep putting out fire music, and I can't wait till they really just like get the recognition they deserve. Because as like an artist in the city, seeing like your peers doing their thing, like they deserve the world in your eyes, you know?
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. Even like I don't know if you've seen recently, but Deja's been doing super well. And she's been doing her thing. And I'm not trying to lash on her moment or anything. I just like to say like super proud of her because I have done shows with her in the past. And she's been hard forever. Like she's been hard forever. Music crazy, stage presence crazy, promotion crazy. Even having her aesthetics together has always been such a strong part of what she does. Like you're right, seeing people in our city succeed like that is both a beautiful thing and motivating thing. And I think that's the thing that people always forget about that too. It's only more motivation. And I think a lot of people are under the assumption that all of us don't want to see each other succeed, but I think it's such a beautiful time to be in the city right now.
Yeah, and I think like I actually just saw her post about her billboard at Young Dundas, which is super cool. So yeah, it's really cool just to see people doing their thing. And yeah, and so for you, talking about success, like where do you see yourself in about like 5 years in terms of music?
Honestly, when it comes to music, I just want in 5 years the freedom to create is number one. Like absolutely just having the money or even just the resources. I don't even really need the money, honestly. I could be poor if I have all the resources necessary to make music, I'd be fine. But having the freedom to make any kind of music that I like, so those kind of resources or the money necessary to get those resources, I would love. If we're making more specific goals, I do really, I want a Juno, but only because I have it in my head that as a requirement, if I'm gonna win any award, I need to win at least a Juno and a Brit, because my mom loved the UK and that's the first place she moved after we left the States. So after we left Zimbabwe, so she's never really understood a North American culture first. She's always been the UK culture first, so she's always been big on British award shows and British celebrities until she got into North American culture. And then I have to win the Juno just because like you're not really a Canadian musician. You're not famous Canadian musician. You don't have a Juno. That's a fact. They even gave Alessia Cara the Best New Artist Juno, like her first year with her first song. I'm like, you're not truly Canadian unless you have the Juno on the belt. I think Drake has 75 of them by now.
That's crazy. Yeah. Well, those are big goals, and you will get there. I feel it coming. But yeah, in the beginning of that, you talked about like resources, and I just want to mention that that's like so real for artists right now because we're stuck at home. Like even me, I'm trying to set up like my little studio in my closet so I can record this EP that I'm working on. And yeah, it's crazy. Like the resources is such a major thing to be able to just afford to record yourself and to create comfortably.
Yeah.
So yeah, super big.
No, you're absolutely right. Being inside and being trapped without these resources and opportunities has been a process. And I'm glad even hearing that you're fighting through it is really important, especially having artists around you that will also check on you and also provide these opportunities is really cool. So I just want to say that I'm really thankful that once again for you guys being aggressive with this and you guys doing your thing, because it does really matter. Not just to us individually that you have on the interviews and panels, but the entire, it shows, and it matters to the rest of us. Because even BIPOC Fest, everything, it's cool being able to see also creatives that you work with getting opportunities where they can, have the freedom to do their stuff and work on their projects and also get support from people in their community. Because like you said, with the pandemic and everything, it was, when it started, there wasn't a lot of these resources for us. And I think that's a big thing people never really took seriously up until the fact that we needed those resources. Because historically we'd always been like, they don't give grants to hip hop and R&B artists and inner city artists and unsigned artists. And before we were just like complaining about like, it's not a big deal. But then we realized how serious that can be, especially when a lot of us do make money off this industry, but we don't make the same money as, you know what I mean? So it's, I think it's really important what you guys are doing, and I'm really thankful for you guys, honestly.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. Because honestly, that's our main goal. Just like I said this before, but as artists, we just want to provide opportunities for other artists and artists that look like us and for ourselves as well, you know? So it's about creating space and making change and creating some noise, you know, making sure we're being heard. So yeah, I think that wraps this up. So where can we find your music? Where can we find you right now? And yeah, let us know.
Honestly, you can find me anywhere. Probably Raymond on the internet, except for Twitter. My original Twitter account was banned for literally no reason. I was talking trash about Ben Simmons. There was a reason. But you guys can find me anywhere. Probably Raymond. I'll still probably show up on Twitter as that.
Thank you so much for joining us and talking with us. And yeah.
This one goes out to fuck 12.
Hold up, wait up, guys. Where the cash at? Hopped in the whip, I couldn't locate where the dash at. I couldn't slip, but I was sick and got the last left. If I'ma kill it, they gon' see me fuck a mask, man. Models came for me, bottles came for me. Good times, I can't stand for sheep, but trading shit too deep. Bad vibes, walked into this bitch and I got paid a fee. That's life, always thought I'd do it, probably did it in my past life. I'm not stunning, I'm a stunner. Hyperbolic training for the summer, yeah. Man, I love the fall time for a come up. We could get it jumping for a one-up. Please don't touch the sweater, man. Treat it like a tennis chain. Kyle Lowry anytime. Baby, I don't hesitate. I won't claim I'm classy. Listen, baby, I just educate. Why men say we trashy? Mama told me that we renegades. Wait. Back on go, they want war, they'll take anything. I don't keep them close, but I'm rent free in the head for them. Style so baroque, I want that, man, I want everything. I'm not making jokes, man, I won't even play pretend with them. Swear I said I'm sorry, Lord, I'm begging for my sins. I know shit get grimy sometimes when a nigga's trying to win. They can try to take it lightly, dog, they murdering the kids. Dog, I said it's not pretend, not with the pigs, that's how it is. That's life. Always thought I'd do it, probably did it in my past life. And the problem still police. I worry daily about my niggas in the east. How can you sleep when you nobody's in the street? How can you sleep like you think everything is sweet? Yeah, and the problem still police. I worry daily about my niggas in the east. How can you sleep when you nobody's in the street? How can you sleep like you think everything is sweet? Hold up, wait up, guys. Where the cash at? Hopped in the whip, I couldn't locate where the dash at. I couldn't slip, but I was sick and got the last.